Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm trying to remake this scene from Eminem and LL Cool J's collab song Murdergram. As soon as I saw it, I knew that I eventually wanted to remake it, and after an entire weekend of trial and error, here is the final result. Now I'll walk you through each step on how I was able to make this and some of the problems that I ran into and how I eventually solved them. The first thing I like to do when recreating a shot is to just analyze everything and even go frame by frame if I need to. So for this shot we have an infinite black background, two subjects moving at a steady rate towards the camera, starting small and getting bigger as if the camera is passing in between them. Each subject has one light on them that looks a bit soft and it's mostly coming from the side. Now a big clue that I found how this was shot is watch M's hand towards the end when he waves off the camera. Hopefully you caught that. His hand is getting cut off at around chest level, which means this was recorded with both guys standing stationary in front of the camera with about this much of them in the frame. Now because of this, the all black clothing makes sense because without it, they would just look like cropped floating heads or like a bust sculpture. It becomes simple to blend the clothing right into the background. Now the song that I'm covering is titled Motor Hell from my friend's band Monarch and their upcoming new album XMGT. I chose this one because it has two guitar harmony parts in the intro that's almost the exact same length as the effect used in the Murdergram music video, which is around 10 seconds long. So to get started with recording, I first need to make the infinite black background effect. I could use a green screen, but whenever I can get away with not using one, I will definitely go in that direction. After getting all the furniture out of the way in my living room, I hung up these two giant sheets of muslin cloth to cover the walls and floor. Since it looks like just one soft light in the video coming from the side, I'll use the 60-watt Neewer light with a light dome softbox. Instead of lighting directly from the side though, I'll actually put it up a bit higher and point it down. My camera is the Sony a6400 and lens is a Sony 18 to 135mm zoom lens, and I'll keep it at around 18mm. Moving on to recording the shots. Just to emphasize that I'm playing two different parts, I'll use two different guitars and wear different clothing, otherwise I feel it will kind of look like duplicate shots. So here is the first take. And the second take. The original music video has an aspect ratio of 1:43:1, so it's more square than usual. It's not quite 4:3 like standard def, but it's actually the same ratio used in IMAX, so I'll set my project to those dimensions. Normally I would do color correction at the very end, but I need to do it in the beginning so I can see how the infinite black background turned out. So I'll increase the range, drop the shadows by a lot, add saturation, and while I'm here I'll mask out the piece of my wall that is in the frame a bit and center myself in the frame. Moving on to the actual effect. My first thought was that I could just take one of these clips, scale it down really small, add a position and scale keyframe, then scale it up and move it out of frame in the finished position and add another set of keyframes. But this gives the illusion that I'm flying in really fast, then slowing down as I get closer to the camera. I need to be able to have control over the keyframes where the scale and position move really slowly, and then as it gets closer to that final keyframe, it needs to increase quickly. Now Final Cut doesn't give us that much control over keyframes, at least I couldn't find it in the program, but I knew that I could do this using a graph editor. Both Blender and After Effects have graph editors for keyframes, so I exported my two clips and imported them over in After Effects just because I have a little more experience with it. Now I'm trying the same strategy again, only now I have the ability to control the rate of change of the keyframes. I actually have the original music video effect with the opacity set to 50% on my timeline, so I can just match the same pace as the original, and it's one less thing I have to worry about. Since I only wanted to move the clips either directly left or right, I only need to manipulate the X position. After Effects allows you to separate X and Y coordinates in the timeline by right-clicking on position, then selecting Separate Dimensions. I scaled the clip down to somewhere between between 7 and 12% and placed it on top of one of the guys in the original video. I then set a keyframe on the scale and X position, moved forward about 3 seconds in the timeline, set another keyframe with the scale at around 140% and X position until it's just out of frame. Now to actually manipulate the rate of change, I came over here and selected this graph editor button. And when I select the X position and scale, I can see the keyframes that I just set. Rather than having this be a straight line from one keyframe to the next, I want to round this line so it looks like an exponential curve. To do that, you select each keyframe on the graph and come down here to this button that reads Convert Selected Keyframes to Auto Bezier. Now we can manipulate the rate by changing the angle or increasing the length of these selectors here. Now we'll just make it so the clips start moving and start scaling really slowly, then as it gets closer to that final keyframe, its rate increases faster. So here is what it looks like before using the graph editor, and here is what it looks like after. Now to make it look like each clip is coming out of the darkness, I added a fade in by keyframing the opacity at the beginning of each clip. So here is one of the flying clips done. Now I just need to do this for each clip because I couldn't really figure out if there was some sort of array effect or any way I could just copy and paste the attributes from the manipulated clip. So if you know of an easier way to duplicate this step, drop a comment below that subscribe button. But for now I did each clip individually by dragging out the clip on the timeline, cutting it, adding a new layer, and repeating this keyframe process. So I ended up doing this 9 times. I did need to end up cropping the sides of each clip and feather the edges so that the next image behind could be seen as the one in front moves off screen. In the original, there's also a reference to Mom's Spaghetti, but I couldn't really think of anything to put in that spot, so I just left it alone. Now I'm free to export this and bring it back into Final Cut to finish editing. When things are moving this fast in real life with a normal shutter speed, it will have some motion blur. So I added some directional blur from the effects panel, then added a bit of glow because the original video has this glow on the highlights. There's also this flickering light coming from the same direction as the key light. So I got this flashes of lightning effect over on story blocks, turned down the opacity, set the blend mode to screen, and color to blue. Now the flashing and flickering was way too fast, so I slowed down the clip to 25% speed and added smoothing so there isn't any jumping between frames. And the last thing to add is that you may notice the movement in the original isn't perfectly smooth. Our boys are moving up and down and side to side a little bit. So to mimic that effect, I threw an adjustment layer on top of everything and added the handheld effect from the effects panel and increased the shakiness. So here is the end result again once it's all come together. But that's it for today. Make sure you tag me if you recreate this effect. Check out my friends over at Monarch releasing their new album soon, and I'll see you in the next video.